What is up today, guys? Today we're talking again about my Feazel experience. This is month 23 in the class production modeling. Alrighty, and I don't have a lot of time this week for like quick edits, so it's gonna be more concise thoughts, not so professional and edited. I'm gonna try to get through this relatively quickly. Normally I end up with like a hour-long video that I wither down to like 20 minutes. Let's just try to work our way through this in real time, almost. Few edits, there'll still be some pictures, but we'll see what we can do. So let's get into this. Okay, we're going to talk about class information, assignments, a little bit about the teacher, some tips, and in short, and then we're going to get out of here. Okay, let's do it. Class information. What is there to really talk about? So this is production modeling, and going into the class, I was like, are we going to be doing a model, a character, or an environment? We really haven't done an environment yet, and turns out you get to pick whichever one you want to do. You get to pick, however, when they do the lectures, they are ZBrush focused. That does not mean that you're going to be using ZBrush. You can do your entire thing in Maya if you want, but the lectures focus on ZBrush. Other than that, there's like 6 assignments throughout the month. One is your professionalism, check it off and you're good. Alrighty, so other than that, I don't really have many things to say. So let's just go ahead and get into the assignments. Week 1. So what do you have to do? Week 1, you of course have your project. You're working on one model throughout the entire month. So week 1, you're doing more of like a block out of your model. For me, I chose a character, but in order to choose what you want to do, you have to choose 3 images that you find online. And this is what I don't really like. If you're doing a character or a prop or an environment, you cannot do something that you have made. Like, I create characters, I love to create characters, but I cannot use my own creations. I have to find one online. And the reasoning was, you're not always going to get to work with your own thing, your own design, your own character. You have to work off someone else's, and I get that. But if I'm going to go through all of the trouble to model it and do retopology and stuff like that, I want it to be something that I want to keep, that I want to further use. I don't want it to be someone else's stuff. So, I mean, that's a nitpick I have with the class, but other than that, you know, you find your reference online, you're like, hey, can I use this? And then he says yes or no. And how that works is you find 3 images online. So I found 3 different characters, and I was like, hey, I would really like to do this one. This is my second option, this is my third, and he just happened to approve of the first one, which is a big shark guy. So, got that approved. So week 1, I blocked out my shark guy. That's pretty much it. It took, I don't know, near 500 minutes to do. But then, another thing I didn't exactly like about this class is, although it's pretty straightforward, you're working on your model throughout the month, easy. I really liked / didn't like all of the extra things that we had to do. Now, I really liked them because it's like a great learning experience and stuff. I learned new things in ZBrush. But I didn't like that it was taking so much time away from me progressing on my model. So, what it comes down to is I spent about 500 minutes on my model, and then about 600 minutes on everything else. So I was like, I could have so used the extra 10 hours or so on my model and made it a really nice block out. I would have, you know, learned things better. So what other things did you have to do in week 1 besides a block out? Because block out's relatively easy. Well, first of all, like I said, you had to get your reference image approved, easy. And then you have to create like a planning guide in a sense. I'm looking at it on my computer right here. You put your reference image, and then you have to, for the most part, list all of the items that you have to create, and then say how you're going to do it. Like full body sculpt, I'm going to use Z-spheres and then Dynamesh. For the teeth, I'm going to use little cones or whatever, ZBrush cones. For all of the straps on them, I'll use the extraction tool and stuff like that. And then just give a little paragraph further explaining it. That's pretty much all your planning guide is. Alrighty, so let's jump into the other assignment you had to do. this was your reference image gathering thing, your comp sheet, I believe it was called. You put your reference image in the middle, gather a whole bunch of images, and surround it. Now, you don't have to have a certain number of images. It's just whatever you need in order to know what you're making. And then there's more. Something I liked, yet again didn't like about this month, is all the warm-up sculpts. Now, I didn't want to necessarily warm up each week. I just wanted to hop into my project and get working on it. So after you get all the images done, then you have to do a monster creature hand sculpt as one of your warm-ups. And all you're doing is turning in JPEGs, so you're just screenshotting it. You don't need to turn in your ZTL file or anything like that. It's just a screenshot of what you made. So you did a creature hand, and then you did an ear sculpt. Interesting. And then, what was the last one? A nose sculpt. And the thing is, with these, I don't know how much of the grade they're actually worth. So it's like, how much time do you put into these in order to make them good? Now, on FSO, it says, spend about 20 to 30 minutes just on your warm-up sculpts. But in 20 to 30 minutes, I'm not very far. I might be considered a slow modeler. I'm not super sure. But I spent an hour on the monster hand and about 30 minutes each on the nose and ear sculpt. So it's like, it wasn't too much time, but I'm like, that's still 2 hours, 10 minutes that I could have done something else on. I could have bettered my model. So I mean, like, I liked the warm-ups and I liked the images and integrated stuff, but I don't know, I would have preferred those just be optional so that I can get my model where I want it to be and then do those. But anyway, that was week 1, and it took me 18 hours and 37 minutes. So there's that. Let's go ahead and move on to week 2. I hope this isn't being too fast for you guys. I just don't have a lot of time to do intense editing this week, and these videos do take about 4 hours to make. So hopefully next month we will have a little bit more time. Alrighty, so we're going to jump into week 2 now. I have my folder pulled up. Let's do it. So again, you have integrated assignments. So these integrated assignments were a bit more technical than anything. It's one of them, you're creating an alpha brush. So you're going to model something and then turn that into an alpha that you can then paint with. Not paint, but sculpt with, So this is my shape that I made into an alpha. It worked. Look at that. And then I also had to make an insert mesh. Yeah, an insert mesh brush. And he's like, don't just kind of cop out and pull up a cone or something and make that into an insert mesh. Make something that you can potentially use. So I made a shark tooth since I'm modeling a shark. So now whenever I'm using this brush, I can just click and boom, there's a shark tooth. Look at that. So I mean, it is cool to learn all this stuff, but again, I wish it was optional. And then also in this week, you have a blend shapes assignment. So you remember from the character rigging class, we had the bunny or whatever, and we had to add blend shapes to his face to make him go and smile and frown and stuff like that, blink. You're pretty much doing that to this very low poly face model. That's pretty much it for your 3 integrated assignments for week 2. Now also in week 2 you had warm-up sculpts. So one of them was the lips, one of them was a skull, and I kind of like my skull. It's very stylized. The eyes aren't super accurate, the nose isn't very accurate, the in between the teeth and nose area, that's not super accurate either, but I like it. It's stylized and it's kind of cool. And then what was the last one you had to do? Oh yeah, tiki head. That one was friggin' nonsense. I spent over 2 hours on the tiki, about an hour and a half on the skull, and about 30 minutes on the mouth. So again, time I wish I could have spent somewhere else. Regardless, let's talk about the actual model now. In this week, you want to get your model to at least the 50% mark, and I really liked where I got with this. I only spent 419 minutes. How long is that? 8-ish hours, somewhere around there, on the model itself. And you want to get them to at least the 50% mark, maybe more. And you know, I really liked it. In week 1, I got a 95 on my overall model turn-in, and in week 2, I got a 100. So I was doing something right. Pretty cool. So total for week 2, because I pretty much touched upon everything, I spent 20 hours and 24 minutes. Not too bad, if I do say so myself. Now, in week 3, during the month, like for the first 3 weeks, you have an assignment in the background called a blog post. You can do it at any point in the first 3 weeks, but I was like, I'm just gonna push it off to the last week because that's what I have time for. So what I looked into it and I was like, a blog post, I was getting kind of confused. I was like, this is gonna take forever. So I see at the very bottom there's a special alternative assignment where you can go through the Arnold render process and take a very low poly skull and a low poly hat from ZBrush, take it into Maya, add displacement maps, lighting, materials, stuff like that, and render it out. And yeah, there's your alternative assignment. And it was really cool. I did that. It took me just over 4 hours to do, and I liked it. It was a good Arnold practice because really not too many classes have taught anything about the Arnold renderer. So this one did. It was really cool. And I learned an awful lot of techniques. Heck, I think I wrote down 18 pages worth of notes during this assignment. So yeah, that was really cool. Alrighty, ran out of storage, but we're all good. So let's continue. Let's move on to the actual assignments of week 3. Now that we've gotten the additional assignment out of the way. Real stuff. Okay, so your integrated assignments. One of them is poly painting. You're gonna learn how to paint in ZBrush, which is really cool. You paint onto your model and you can use materials, you can use simply just color, you can blend colors together. And I made this, like, I didn't model the ogre guy, you can choose to paint him if you want. But I went ahead and painted him like green, and he looked like a killer ogre and his eyes were really cool. So, I mean, I really enjoyed that. I didn't want to go over or anything because I knew in week 3, you've got to finish your model because there's no modeling in week 4. So week 3, you got to finish your model. That way you can do other stuff. So I was like, I'm not going to spend too much time poly painting. I'm going to show that I know what to do and go from there. And then your second integrated assignment for week 3 was retopology. You get this skull and then you've got to retopologize it. Easy peasy. I think I do prefer retopology in ZBrush over Maya. That's just how it is. I don't know. There's something about Maya where it's, I don't know. I just prefer ZBrush. That's all it is. And then your last integrated assignment is XGen hair, which is really cool. You create a scalp on a character or a ball in ZBrush. You take that scalp, bring it into Maya, and then you can create curves and attach hair to them, which is really cool. And I have been waiting to learn how to make hair for a really long time, and we finally learned it. Really friggin' awesome. Alrighty. And then of course you had warm-up sculpts again. There was a warm-up sculpt of a cartoon head. I spent 45 minutes on that. There was one of a monster, which I spent just under 2 hours on, and then one of like a shark with a big old belly that I spent about an hour and a half on. Again, wish I could focus time elsewhere, but it is what it is. So then the model, you want to, like I said, get your model to full-on completion, add all the details, add surface noise, you know, add skin or scales or whatever the heck you're doing. But yeah, I did that and I really like the way my model looks. I spent only 350 minutes on finishing this model, so 300 minutes is 5 hours. 5 hours, 50 minutes on the model itself, which I was surprised to get it done that soon, but then again, I did go super hard in weeks 1 and 2. My block out was more than a block out should be, and my 50% was more than 50%, so it made week 3 kind of easy. But week 3, overall, I did spend 22 hours and 49 minutes. So there's that. You can see a bit of a trend. It went 18, 20, 22. Now what's week 4 going to be? This is the kicker. Oh, week 3, I got a 100. So my model, I got a 100 on. He looked friggin' awesome. Teacher dude was happy with it. I'm happy with it. Coffee gets me through everything. Now week 4, I'm not feeling great about, and you guys will understand why here in a second. Let's talk about the integrated assignment real quick. In the integrated assignment, you are using fiber mesh and ZBrush to create hair. It's really cool, really easy. I think I prefer to make hair in ZBrush over Maya, but that's just my first experience with both of them. Maybe I'll learn to prefer one over the other even more so in the future. Maybe I'll start liking XGen more than fiber mesh. Anyway, that's all it was. That only took me half an hour to do. Really easy, really cool. Here is the kicker, like I said. I was able to start retopology on Wednesday, and I set aside 800 minutes to do retopology. That's 13 and some change hours, and it took me 1,229 minutes, which is like over 20 hours. I think it's 20 hours, 29 minutes to do retopology. I don't know if I'm slow at it. I don't know if I just underestimated it, but I took forever, and it took forever to retopologize this character. And I'm not even super happy with some of the retopology. But then, and there's more, then you have to UV all of your retopologized geometry. Then you're going to project your high-res details onto your low-res geometry. Then you're going to create displacement maps. And then after all of that, you're going to set up your Maya scene with lights and a camera and a nice backdrop, and you're going to create a render in either Arnold or RenderMan. And then, submit your assignment. Now, I very, very much underestimated the time it would take to, for one, retopologize, and then, create projections and displacement maps and the final render, okay? Because in the practice assignment that I did, instead of the blog post, I did the special assignment, and you do this exact thing with the skull and the hat. The only difference is you don't have to retopologize those in the special assignment. Here, with your character or your model or whatever, you do have to. So, the thing is, in the practice assignment, we were taking a skull that has like 1.7 million polygons and bringing it down to 400. With my shark, I was at 55 million polygons, and I was bringing it down to about 3,000. So that is where it's like my expectations were just way off, because over here to create a displacement map from high res to low, it took about 2.5 minutes. Mine, for my shark body itself, not even for everything else, took 77 minutes to create one displacement map, using the exact same settings as over here. And that was heartbreaking to see, because I had a whole bunch of junk going on this week. I was up for 42 hours straight, and this just was a killer week. My displacement maps didn't want to work while I was in Maya and doing the final render, and it's just really hard to talk about because I know that this is a terrible turn-in. Okay, so let's get to the end of this. Pretty much what happened, I was only able to get a displacement map for my shark body, and my knife blade. And everything else I had to just let it be as just smooth geometry in Maya. I didn't get to keep all the details I put in, and I didn't get to work on lighting at all because that friggin' displacement map took 20 times longer than I thought it would. And then in the practice assignment and in the lecture, he said that our Arnold render should take about 15 to 30 minutes to render. So here I am, I started at 1040. I mean, that's my fault anyway, but anyway, I start the render at 1040. Here it is 11:45, and I'm like, okay, so this is gonna take like 6 minutes just to upload to FSO after the whole folder has been compressed. So I had to stop the render at 7% done. So it was at 7% of 100. I had to stop that and turn it in with only 2 of my displacement maps working out of like 43. It's a grainy image, it's a poorly lit image. I don't have nearly as much detail as I put into it. The scaling is way off. I had to bring the scale of my displacement map down to a 0.05 just to get it to not be so out of this world and not working. So as of this moment right now, only weeks 1, 2, and 3 are graded, and I have a 98.9 or something like that. I know that this will not get a good grade. I'm scared that I'm not even going to get an 8 in the class. Like, this week is all about retopology, rendering, projections, UVs, and like more than half my stuff doesn't work. So what are the chances that my overall grade is going to stay an A in the class? Not very good. And that's because I severely underestimated how much time retopology would take. And he has a folder full of bad renders that he shows you at the beginning of week 4, and I would not be surprised if you see this image in your class. So it's heartbreaking. I spent 35 hours and 46 minutes in week 4, and I got this kind of result. I spent all of this time in this month, which is 97 hours, 36 minutes throughout the entire month, and this is what I ended with. I am heartbroken. So that's where I am. The final project itself, like this week, was over 25%. Even if I get a 0, I'm still passing the class. It's just I would hate to have to pass the class with a 75 when I could have gotten a 95. I think I have to get a 63% to keep my A in the class. I don't even think it's worth that, honestly. Hopefully he is like, it's a really good model, but it's just not a good render. So I don't, I'm hoping. I know I'm not going to get a good grade on this, but this is a lesson for you. Start your dang retopology Monday morning during week 4, because I started it Wednesday and I got this junk, because in the lectures he's going to be using relatively low res geometry, like a 1.7 million polygon skull. And if your character is like mine, where they're in the upper 55 millions, it's going to take more than the 3 minutes that he says for the displacement maps and for the render and stuff like that to happen. So just know that. Okay, so that's depressing. So like I said, 97 hours, 36 minutes in this entire month, and this is my result. I'm sad, I'm depressed, but once school's out, I'm going to be making models that are great and also have color and textures. So right now, I know you guys saw my shark model video last week. That was this, obviously, but I'll be making way cooler things in the future when school's out. So stick with me. So let's talk about the teacher for a second. Teacher's cool. Not really anything to say, very super informative about everything. Really great. Seems like a good guy. And in the videos he sends you back after he's like grading it and stuff, he's like, hey, maybe this can be fixed, and then let me show you how to fix it. It's not like he's just like, hey, maybe make a new strap or something. No, he shows you how to make a custom strap brush and how to use it and apply it and stuff like that. Really cool. Other than that, I don't have anything to say. He was a good teacher. I now know an awful lot more. I have like 40 plus pages of notes that I took from this month. So yeah, pretty dang cool. So let's talk about some tips real quick. All I can really say is friggin' get started early. I tried. I started on Wednesday and it didn't even happen. I put in 35 hours of work. It didn't even happen. I know I'm solely talking about week 4 right now, but just in general, an overall tip, get started early. If you can, really push yourself during that week 1 block out, because it'll just make weeks 2 and 3 a lot easier on you. And that's pretty much it on tips. There's not much I can say. Just model something cool and take time on it. And then in short, let's do this. ZBrush is like the main thing taught, although it's a little bit of Maya, mostly ZBrush though. You can choose a character, a prop, or an environment, but it does have to get approved first. Week 1, block out along with 3 sculpts and like 2 other assignments. Week 2, get your model to at least 50%. 50% done, and then then you have 3 sculpts as well, and 3 integrated assignments. Week 3, you have 3 sculpts, get your model finished, and then you have some integrated assignments. Week 4, you have 1 integrated assignment, which is fiber mesh hair, and then you have to retopologize, UV, project details, create displacement maps, bring it into Maya to render it out using either Arnold or RenderMan. That's pretty much it. So yeah, that was my production modeling experience. Weeks 1 through 3 were great. Week 4 just fell flat on its face, and I will be lucky to get probably even a 63 on this assignment. So yeah, but my question for you guys is, what do you like to model more? Characters, props, or environments? Let me know. Comments below. And that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I know that this whole like super not edited thing is a little long, but it's what I had time for this week. But I still wanted to get it to you guys in case you are now going into this class. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this one, guys. If you would please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. See you guys later.